child has the potential to increase a country's wealth far greater than any other thing or any other combination of things that are being done now. A child can invent, and there's no limit to what can be invented. With the new government, there's no patent that cannot be bought by our government. That means no longer, now we're talking about economics here, that means no longer will an idea be patented and then bought and squashed by the overcharger so they can continue to steal from us just as they've always been doing. Our children will no longer be trained to work for the corporation, but rather be trained to be able to give their best to our society that we live in. If a child is an artist, then that is his or her work. If a child just wants to be a worker, then that child must be trained to be efficient and skilled in the chosen field. Do you understand what they're saying? They don't mean the child must be, okay, we're going to make that child a bit. No, we're just saying that child, if that child wants to be a worker, we can train them to be efficient and skilled in that, be the best they can in the field that they choose to work in. Always no forcing, always the information is available. This is an information cycle coming. It's going to change everything. If a child chooses to become a teacher, then how best to teach and what to teach and what basically best to teach us to help to live here. If a child chooses to think, then to be given a place in the trains and do just that. Whatever a child is found to be good at and the child wants to work at is where he or she should be placed and trained and allowed to work. Trained. I can see the God wannabes jumping up and down. Okay, we get to train these damn children and they're going to do what we... No. What training means is the information is made available. What a difference, huh? Yeah, all of a sudden you're in school and teacher, tell me how do we do such and such a thing? And the teacher says, let me show you where to look so you can find out how to do it. Teacher didn't say you have to do it this way. You're a square peg and this school is a round hole and you've got to sit there and be there 9 years and be in this prison and, I've gone over it before and I keep going over it again because I hate it. So as the parent begins to raise a child or children in the non-corporate manner and gets paid for that difficult work, we'll all have jobs. What did they say? We're talking about economics here. Oh, by the way, if the mother or father is being paid to raise a child, that person is pulled off the work market. The independent employer no longer has that employee working for him, and that means that there are jobs available, and all of a sudden there are people that can take that job or want that job or to do that job, and they pay a little more than the welfare government base level payment. So even with the robotics taking more and more of our jobs, we'll still have enough work for a long time. But when we're talking about economics, that solves the problem of nobody having a job. And come on, I've been 10 years without being able to find a job. You think I'm going to apply to the government and go on their unemployment records? The whole unemployment thing is a lie. The true unemployment in this country is, and I'm going to be low. The true unemployment and underemployment in this country is well over 80%. Now, you're going to scream and holler that it's only 4%. I said it's 80%. If you actually go in there and do the economic research, you'll find out that the federal government has a system where they don't use the real economic factors. They lie, and they do it on purpose, and they do it to keep it so that you don't realize. But how many people do you know who parents or grandparents are taking care of them? How many people do you know that are only getting 20 hours a week? How many people do you know that are underemployed? They're not getting enough to live on. Somebody has to subsidize them, and the point that they make all the time is that we end up taking care of these people no matter what. But it isn't the employer, and it isn't the government. It's just the common person, a grandmother or the mother or father, and they're taking care of these people, and they're no longer employed. Well, why aren't they employed? Because they're not going to go out there and work uh, 40 hours, 20 hours a week for the pittance that you give them. They can't afford to buy a car. They don't make it. You know, you know. I'm not even going to go into that. Did they give you a car to start working? Nope. Do they give you a way to start 40 hours a week and a good pay so that you can afford to buy the things that you have to buy to start working? Nope. Well, then as the truth becomes evident, we'll begin to realize that it is the industrial robot, all including cashiers, food servers, auto manufacturers, and any other, that is and will continue to take our jobs away from us, the human worker. Now we've talked about that before, and what we've got is the manufacturer saves a little money with the robotic system, but the government has to pay for the unemployed worker, and they don't take that into economic accounts, and you have to. And they'll continue to take our jobs away from us. We're talking about the human worker. It's going to happen, and we've turned a blind eye to that reality so far. With the parent taking out of the job market and raising a child, there will be jobs, but even that'll change, and we'll have to learn to adjust the work week for humans. It is good to have robots do our work as long as we understand that it is we need and what we need and what we don't need. We can work 20 hours a week if that's what's needed. There's nothing wrong with that, no matter what the overchargers have taught you over the years. 10 hours or even no work is possible with education to get you out of the advertised 40-hour a week that is only the only work week mode. The advertised 40 hours a week. Well, the 40 hours a week doesn't even exist. Why? Because the federal government says if you work 40 hours a week, you have to be paid your health insurance, which is gone, and you're a full-time worker, which is gone, and all these things are changed, so now all of a sudden none of that makes any difference. And that's the economic reality of it. You might work 10 hours a week. What the hell are you going to do with all that space? I asked them, what are we going to do with all that spare time? And they said, look, we don't have the things that we could have, but let's just do one. We got teenagers and adults who have a tremendous amount of time that they're not working, and we have these lakes in Michigan, by the way, lakes all over the place. And what we have is we have the government or somebody, maybe the people who have the social. You have to qualify to go into their thing, and what we have is sailboat races, and what we have is people in motorboats that are running alongside these sailboats to make darn sure nothing happens. But we have sailboat races, and what we have is we have the heaviest person who is involved in the sailboat racing, and that's the weight of the boat, and they take the boat and they fill it with weights because there's only a child in there, and they end up with all sailboats being exactly the same weight, and they race, time them or actually have them race, and off they go, and and there's, oh my God, they're spending 8 hours a day racing sailboats. You understand what we're saying? What are you going to do with the spare time? You're actually going to enjoy yourself for a change. Believe me, there'll be all kinds of things because you got the money. You can go pay the person who's says, "Are you qualified to sail a boat?" Yep. Here's my slip showing that you're unqualified. Okay, you are now in the sort of semi-social situation, and you're allowed to sail. So they say to go on, there are two benefits in this parenting thing that are not normally recognized. The first is is the parent is living better. and that just means that they're living well enough to be living, and they're not depressed, and there's less suicide, and there's less drug addiction, and there's less. What are they doing? The person that's sitting there in the living room without a television set, looking at a blank wall and a folding chair, might consider taking a drug to feel good once a day. Do you understand what we're saying? We're saying that, you look at these things and you say, oh, if the person had a television set, or even was reading something, or, was raising their child and taking classes, or, doing anything besides sitting in a folding chair looking at a blank wall in the small, dingy, crummy apartment that they're paying for, if they had something else to do, they probably wouldn't take the drug. Okay, to go on, there are two benefits in this parenting thing that are not normally recognized. The first, the parent is living better, and that will be passed on to the child. That child's going to do better if the parent does better. Then changing our school system from training to become a corporate cesspool employee to learning how to think and learn those things that will actually be used in your lifetime will make so much more sense to our child, and thus thus bring the suicide rate down for the child. For the child, you realize, you don't realize, but it's time to take down the walls. Well, we have to have the child in the school system for 9 years, and they've got to be in prison, and we're going to teach them how to kiss ass properly. And why are they committing suicide? When you get to see it like it really is, all of a sudden it makes total sense. You need 3 to 4 years of education. You can't imagine what it's like for a child to all of a sudden get out of that prison and actually raise to invent things. And why did these ants disappear all of a sudden, and then they appear over there? And why do these ants pick up dead ants and carry them back to the? Why does the stars twinkle? Why do you understand what we're saying? Totally different picture when you picture get them out of that corporate cesspool education system and into a real education system. It's time we put an end to the reaching in your pocket and taking all your money out, and then saying that the reacher is okay and you need to kiss his boots or her boots. Come on, it's time. Put the guns in the sheriff's office, and we can live in the town. When the parent or guardian has child entering the school, and you understand now that the person who's educating the child and taking care of the child, when that child goes to school, they can go back to the private sector or a government job for those hours, and they're getting paid not for not raising a child, not for the time the child's in school, but they have something else to do while the child's in school, and everything is designed for the parent. Designed hours and so on and so forth. So the parent can easily let the child go to school, go to work for 4 or 5 hours, and then come home and take care of the child. What a change, There's no doubt that the government payment for raising a child is a great benefit to the United States of America and all of its people, both in the long run as the child begins their respective tasks in the workplace, and in the emotional satisfaction given to the parent and guardian as they raise their own children instead of having somebody else raise their children. This will be a win-win. No longer do the parents have to work outside the home while their children have strangers for babysitters and are being taught garbage in the schools. Oh, boy, what a way to end this discussion. You no longer have a stranger for a babysitter, stranger to the child, not the mother or the father, and they're not being taught garbage in the schools anymore. Isn't that the way it should be? Okay, now we're moving to the retired. How do they benefit from this spiderweb work of the People's Trust News government or People's Trust government? And they say the low-level worker now makes barely enough to live on, yet our present government thinks that the worker should be able to save a large amount of money for their retirement. What'd they say? They said the government, the rich, the overchargers in our government now think that the worker makes enough money that they should be able to save a large amount of money for their retirement, and therefore the retirement isn't the retirement that they give, which is not livable for the people who worked their whole life for the overchargers. The whole game that they play, they set it up so that there's not any money left over at the end of their work career for savings to go on and retire. Those people who now run our government have absolutely no concept of what it is like to be a low-level worker, and until the election system is changed, it is like the low-level worker does not even exist. As we said before, the entire government depends on the very group, the low-level worker group, being stable and not abused. Since we, that's the we that give you this thing, do understand the fact, we have developed a low-level worker package discussed above before, if you will, and we are now recommending that we extend the package to each retired worker as they become eligible. What did they say? That means that the retired person, when they retire, will have at least the same money to live on as the base level worker when he or she retires. They say down the road that, well, we'll let it come down the road. Those who can afford to add to their own package and keep keep a retired package in their possession, not the corporation's possession, and within the rules of the retirement package, they can use that package as it was intended. The banks have the rules for the requirement of kind of like saving that package, and the package will be used as the retired rules allow. Why do we need the banks or the government's agreement on how they use the retirement package? Only to make sure the package includes or is used for those things that the base. No, they're independent. They're not working for the government. They're working for independent businesses. But they want to make sure that the package includes those things that are included in the base level workers package, and those things that will be there when the individual retires. What did they say? They said if you're working for a corporation, the corporation will include a base level package that will be the same as what the government gives you if you're just a government welfare worker, same base level worker package. Then when you retire, there will be enough money to take care of that. And if you're such that you can charge more because you're doing much better work or you're more highly educated or so on and so forth, then the base that package that you got, the retirement package, will be more money. But you can't use the more money in the retirement package for anything but retirement. So you'll have, instead of the base level workers package, you'll have more. And that's an incentive to work harder, to get an education, to do more. However, if that package becomes so low that it doesn't come up to the workers package level the government will supply, then the government supplies the rest. So no matter what, you'll absolutely get the low-level workers package monies when you retire, no matter what. So now the retired are secure and safe from the overchargers' games, and that's the intent. The government is stable, and all the people who want to go on making huge amounts of money can do so. The whole concept of non-socialism And we have no idea what you're going to call this government. The People's Trust Government is what it has been called here. The People's Trust Government is not a social government because there are ways. Number one, they're promoted. The government is promoting people to make more money than the government base level worker guarantee. So if you have a person who's doing quite well, they can put into savings more for their retirement if they want to, and the thing that they're putting into the bank, let's say, is controlled by the bank, so they can't just grab it and go buy a car because the car will be trashed by the time they retire. But they could use it to buy a house because the house will be something to live in when they retire. So that's the rule. That's the concept of the rules. And the motivation is there to go ahead and put money into the retirement account so you'll live better when you retire. What do they mean? You live better than the base level worker. It's obvious that the package is good for the retired as they near retirement and have no worries. What did they say there? They said all of a sudden there's less stress, and what a surprise, less suicides. So what you have is the person who's retiring no longer living off of the children or some other thing to survive, which means that the base level worker is not paying for the parent retiring, and that means that the base level worker can have the money the base level worker's got. And what you're dealing with there all the time is you will have a certain amount of living money, and we're trying to get rid of anything that takes that money away from you. So now we have the retired having a decent retired package. They're not lied to about, well, you should be able to save some money for retirement because the Social Security wasn't designed to take care of all of your needs. Well, bullshit. They certainly should. You put the money into the package and all of a sudden they're wanting to take it away from you, or they want to put it into the stock market so they can steal from you even more. Come on. Let's take care of those people that we're going to take care of, the base level people, the people that can't work, the people that retire, the people that have medical problems that are laid out by doctors, which is what will happen. No one doctor is going to sign you off and say you can't work. And doctors, as we said before, but basically what we're designing to do there is make sure that everybody can quit worrying about getting fired, quit worrying about your insurance, quit worrying about your health, quit worrying about your education, quit worrying about all these things, and all of a sudden there'll be less and less suicide, which is part of the spider web. And that's the key to the whole thing, is that all of these things tied together begin to change those things that are negative in our society to positive things. And, what a change. Those who qualified for not being able to work for whatever reason will also get the base level workers benefit package as they go on into retirement or during the time when they're unable to work. And again, there we have a situation where there's less stress and less worry. The person who is not able to work will be checked by several doctors to make sure they're not able to work. And so there you are. You have them taken care of. So, you have these people at the base level who are not able to work, not able to get the best, good, high-paying jobs. The base level is what we're calling them. They're taken care of. So we have the retirement. We have the people who are unable to work. Look at all those people who cannot work now and who fear for their lives as retirement age approaches. Terrifying. They don't have retirement income because they weren't able to work, and what are they going to do? And the interesting thing all the time is that we pay for it anyway. We pay to keep that person alive anyway, no matter what. no matter what you say, and we pay way too much in order to support that person. Let's just pay that person a retirement income, which is the same as everybody else gets, and that is part of the base level workers benefit package that they also benefit by, and we're taking care of who we should be taking care of. And with the system change, we can now afford to take care of them as they should be taken care of related to the health system, which will do so much better to get them up and living, if you will. If they're not healthy enough to work, they're certainly not happy. And there will be far less people that will fall into that category, at which point there will be far less people that aren't working. Looks like all the people so far are doing so much better. The web of the People's Trust government just keeps making it better and better and better for the people. So, that's what we're looking at, and that's what we want, and it's about time that we did it, and it's about time that you stop believing the overchargers' advertisement that those people are rotten, lazy people that aren't working. It's just not true. They can't work if they can't work, and that's the way it is, and we need to take care of them. And, when you look at it from the we need to take care of them point of view, that's the thing that's lost in this overcharger's desire to get all our money, and we need to get it back. The common person in our country wants to take care of those that can't work. I mean, the common person in this country wants to take care of those who can't work, wants to take care of those who are retired, and wants to take care of the children, and they've got it set up so that they're not doing it. And it's time to put the guns in the sheriff's office and get the goddamn gunslinger off the street, in a position of power anyway.